In this video, I'm going to give you the most recent disclosure update, significantly based on an interview that occurred on January 15th by Giuliano Milinkovic of OmniTalk Radio with the former head of the UFO program in the Pentagon, Luis Elizondo. But this interview was actually published yesterday. In the description, there is a link to Milinkovic's YouTube channel, and I recommend that you subscribe because he's doing amazing work. It wasn't just Ted Stevens of Alaska and Daniel Inouye of Hawaii that supported the UFO program in the Pentagon, but interestingly enough, it was also ex-Senator John Glenn of Ohio, who, as you probably know, was an astronaut. Senator Ted Stevens was actually a pilot. He served in World War II, and he actually had an experience where a UFO tailed his aircraft for miles. So of course he would be interested in initiating a UFO program in the Pentagon. One thing about the 2004 USS Nimitz event that a lot of people have probably lost sight of is the fact that there were instances where there were actually 20 of these UFOs tracked, not just one. And the UFO activity around the Nimitz happened for a full week prior to the famous incident where Commander David Fravor made a UAP intercept with just one UAP. And these UFOs were coming in from 80,000 feet. That's when they would begin to be detected by radar. They'd go down whoosh, to 20,000 feet, sometimes as low as 50 feet. And then they'd shoot right back up at hypersonic speeds. And it's not like they just went away when they got to 80,000 feet. It's just that the radars were no longer able to track them. You want my opinion? My opinion is those suckers went back out to outer space. Elizondo explains that he risked everything by leaving his position in the Pentagon. He has given up his pension. He's given up his retirement. He had tremendous respect. He was on the top of his game while working in the Pentagon, and he left it all to join To the Stars Academy in protest that the department was not taking the UAP presence seriously enough, and that people within the department, within the military, could not communicate up through the chain of commands the experiences they had of witnessing these technologies coming to our atmosphere without the threat of being ridiculed or even losing their security clearances, or even losing their job. Now, to be perfectly honest, I do have to wonder if Luis Elizondo's leaving of the Pentagon in protest of the lack of transparency with the UFO phenomenon is, let's say, I have to wonder if there's more to it than meets the eye. I'll just put it that way. Because, look, the US government has been lying about the UFO presence for 70 years, whether by omission or whether intentionally. So I don't think anyone can blame me or any of my fellow Americans that when we see a story like this, we may get a little suspicious and reflect or contemplate, maybe it's not all that it seems. But regardless of that, I support the objective of what Luis Elizondo is doing, and I support To the Stars Academy, and I support everyone in the Pentagon who is on board with creating greater transparency regarding the UFO phenomenon. Elizondo explains that after leaving the Pentagon and explaining to the American people what he was involved in for 10 years studying unidentified aerial technology, that he actually received 2 threats from, I believe, 2 separate people. One of the threats is someone threatened that they would take away his security clearances, and even more disturbing, someone threatened his physical well-being as a result of what he's doing right now. And of course, I think that is incredibly absurd and a sad commentary, and this is not so surprising to me, however, because one of the things I'm hearing over and over again from multiple sources, various sources, is that there is a lot of tension and conflict within the intelligence community. Some are in favor of greater transparency in reference to the UFO phenomenon, and some are vehemently against it. So this isn't so surprising to me, but it is quite unfortunate because, let's face it, the American people have a right to know. The clip that follows by Giuliano Milinkovic of OmniTalk Radio is the only clip of his interview that I'm actually going to play on my channel. And again, the link is right below. I recommend that you subscribe to his channel. The reason I'm playing this clip is because for me, this was the most important segment of the entire interview. At least emotionally, this was the most important segment because of me being an American and how I feel about what he utters in this clip. Now, I will tell you how I feel about it, but first you must listen to it. Roll it.
The fact that there are things we can't explain is not the providence of any government or any institution. It's just like Galileo making the point that the Earth was not the center of the solar system. That is not a classifiable fact. So my point being is, if this is something that the American people think is important enough to make a national security priority, then they need to have a conversation and let them decide. In the end, I really don't care what the American people decide as long as they have the ability to make that decision themselves. But to keep that information from the American people and not even have a conversation, that is a problem.
I absolutely love Luis Elizondo's reference of Galileo, who made the point that the Earth is not the center of the solar system and you cannot classify that information. Well, likewise, we have unidentified aerial technology entering our atmosphere. I don't know what they are. I hypothesize that they're extraterrestrials. They could be advanced primates that are off the grid and that somehow conceal themselves from the rest of society. They could be interdimensional. They could be foreign military inventories. Unlikely, but it's possible. Regardless of what the true nature of these UAP are, the fact of the matter is they exist just like the sun exists, just like the planets exist, just like water boils at 212. This is a matter of science. And we cannot continue as a human society to move forward into 2018, into 2019, into 2020, and conceal a fact about our reality. We cannot do that anymore. We cannot be complacent about a continuing concealment of a basic fact regarding our reality. Mr. Elizondo goes on to explain that the American people need to have a conversation about the UAP incursions into highly restricted airspace so that the American people can decide whether or not they want to make this a national security priority. And the fact that Mr. Elizondo says it's the American people who get to decide whether to make the UAP incursions a national security priority or not goes a long way in conflicting with what a lot of people say, that this is that the To the Stars Academy coming out with all this information is a government plot to make it so that the aliens are evil. Well, like Mr. Elizondo says, if it's up to the American populace to determine how to move forward with this knowledge, that does not sound like some kind of mysterious plot as many like to suggest. Elizondo touches on the backlash that him and his team at To the Stars Academy have received with the release of all this information on UAP. He was saying that some people are not happy with him because it wasn't released the way they wanted it to be or the way they anticipated that it was going to be released. He also says that some of these people have made a cottage industry telling people all there is to know about the UAP phenomenon, and now that the cat's out of the bag and everyone can look at the data themselves, it doesn't necessarily line up with a lot of the theories or facts that the people in the cottage industry were telling, and now they see Mr. Elizondo, the To the Stars Academy team, and the Pentagon for releasing raw, real data as a threat to their business. He says he never expected such hostility. And I don't know if I expected it or not, but I find that the hostility toward the government, toward the Pentagon actually releasing real data and acknowledging the existence of UAP to be an absolute absurdity. Why are you showcasing hostility? Is this not what you wanted? Did you not want greater transparency? What the hell is wrong with you? The last thing I want to cover in the interview is that Mr. Elizondo gave Tom DeLonge a lot of credit for getting very high people in the government to acknowledge that the UAP are real and that they exist. If you enjoyed this disclosure update, please don't forget to subscribe because there's going to be so much more content just like this. Please consider liking, commenting, or sharing this video because it really helps my channel, and you can even become a patron if you like. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
This is real life, little home, that's why I stayed down. I done came up off that boy, look what I made now.